What happens when nature's fiercest predator becomes the adopted son of man's kindest companion? In a remote wildlife sanctuary, an unlikely bond formed between Max, a golden retriever, and two orphaned puma cubs who had lost everything. While the world expected tragedy, something far more extraordinary unfolded. As these little felines grew from helpless newborns into powerful predators, Max stayed by their side, teaching them lessons no human could. But the day finally came when the cubs had to leave for their natural habitat. What Max did next left all the witnesses in utter disbelief.
The story began on a cold March morning when wildlife sanctuary staff found something that would change everything forever. Two tiny puma cubs were discovered abandoned in the nearby forest, shivering from cold and hunger, just a few days old. Their mothers had disappeared without a trace, likely victims of poachers who roamed the area. The little felines were in critical condition, dehydrated and too weak to make any sound beyond faint, almost inaudible meows. The sanctuary team knew the challenge would be immense. Puma cubs rejected by their mothers rarely survive without constant care in the first few weeks of life. They need body heat, feeding every 2 hours, and most importantly, the comforting presence of a maternal figure to develop properly. It was at this crucial moment that Max stepped in, completely changing the fate of those vulnerable creatures. Max was a 7-year-old golden retriever who had lived at the sanctuary since he was a puppy, known for his patient and protective nature towards all the animals there. When the caretakers brought the puppies inside, Max immediately approached with cautious curiosity, sniffing the little ones with surprising gentleness. What happened next left everyone speechless.
Max carefully lay down beside the trembling puppies and began to lick them with gentle, deliberate movements, just as a mother puma would. Driven by pure instinct, the little felines crawled toward the warmth of the golden retriever's body, snuggling against his soft chest. For the first time since they were found, the puppies stopped trembling. Max remained motionless for hours, offering his vital warmth while the caretakers prepared a special formula to feed them. That moment marked the beginning of a relationship that would defy all expectations. In the following days, Max fully assumed the role of foster father. He remained lying in the quarantine area where the puppies were being kept, only getting up when absolutely necessary. During bottle feedings, Max attentively observed each feeding, licking the puppies' faces after each meal. The sanctuary caretakers were witnessing something extraordinary, a domestic dog demonstrating paternal behavior toward wild predators that under normal circumstances would be considered a natural threat. The bond grew stronger with each passing hour. The pups, named Luna and Shadow by the staff, began to recognize Max as their only source of security. Whenever the golden retriever was away for a few minutes, the little pumas would emit distressed calls until he returned. Max would respond immediately, running back to them, his tail wagging as he lay down again to soothe them with his constant and comforting presence. As the weeks passed, Luna and Shadow began to open their eyes and explore the world around them with growing curiosity. Their first trembling steps were taken under the watchful eye of Max, who followed them closely like a protective shadow. The puppies wobbled on their still fragile paws, constantly stumbling, but always found support in the golden retriever's firm body. Max had infinite patience, allowing the little predators to climb on him, nibble his ears, and pull his golden tail without ever showing irritation. The daily routine at the sanctuary had completely changed.
Max would wake up before dawn, anxiously waiting for the caretakers to open the enclosure door so he could check on his adopted puppies. Luna was the bolder of the two, constantly testing limits and venturing further afield, while Shadow was more cautious, preferring to stay close to Max. The Golden Retriever had developed specific techniques for dealing with each personality. He gave Luna a little more freedom to explore, but kept Shadow close, offering him extra security through constant physical contact. During playtime, Max taught the cubs valuable lessons about control and boundaries. When Luna or Shadow bit too hard during play, Max would let out a soft yelp and step away for a few seconds, teaching them that there were consequences for aggressive behavior. It was fascinating to watch how quickly the little pumas learned these social lessons, something they would normally learn from their biological mother in the wild. The following months brought dramatic changes in Luna and Shadow's growth. From tiny cubs that fit in the palm of a hand, they transformed into muscular and agile young pumas with sharp claws and pointed teeth that now posed a real danger. Despite their increasing size and intimidating strength, the two felines continued to treat Max with extraordinary gentleness, as if they instinctively understood that he was unlike any other creature. They never used their claws when playing with the Golden Retriever, carefully retracting them whenever they approached him. Max, for his part, was beginning to show visible signs of aging. His golden fur was gaining more and more white hairs around his muzzle, and his movements were becoming slightly slower. Even so, he never hesitated to accompany Luna and Shadow on their explorations of the expanded enclosure that the caretakers had built. The Golden Retriever climbed hills, crossed shallow streams, and even tried to climb small logs to follow his adopted puppies, who now demonstrated impressive athletic abilities worthy of top predators. The sanctuary staff watched in admiration as this unlikely family navigated the natural changes of the weather. Luna developed a peculiar habit of bringing small twigs and leaves to Max, carefully placing them at his feet as offerings of gratitude. Shadow, more reserved, preferred simply to lie beside the Golden Retriever during warm afternoons, his enormous head resting on Max's paws as they both dozed in the sun. These moments of tranquility contrasted sharply with the inevitable reality that was rapidly approaching. The reality everyone had feared finally arrived when Luna and Shadow turned 18 months old. The sanctuary's biologists determined that the young pumas were ready to be transferred to a much larger natural habitat, specifically designed for big cats. This new space would offer them the opportunity to fully develop their hunting instincts and natural behaviors, essential for their physical and mental health. The news brought mixed feelings to the entire team, but especially concern about how Max would react to being separated from his adopted cubs. Preparations for the move took weeks. Caretakers gradually began reducing the time Max spent with Luna and Shadow, trying to ease the transition for everyone involved. The Golden Retriever clearly sensed that something was changing. He would stand at the enclosure door, anxiously looking inside, his tail down and ears drooping, showing his confusion and sadness. Luna and Shadow also felt the difference, becoming more agitated and vocalizing frequently, their calls echoing through the facility as if asking where their protector was. On the day of the transfer, Max was kept in a separate area while Luna and Shadow were carefully transported to their new home. The Golden Retriever spent hours lying on the floor, his muzzle resting between his paws, refusing to eat or play. Sanctuary staff tried to comfort him, but it was clear he deeply missed his puppies. That night, Max howled for the first time in his life, a melancholy and piercing sound that touched the hearts of all who heard it.
Luna and Shadow's new habitat was only 300 meters from the main sanctuary area, but for Max, it could have been miles away. The morning after the transfer, something extraordinary happened that no one could have predicted. Max escaped from his usual enclosure and was found sitting in front of the fence of the puma's new habitat, completely still, like a golden statue. His eyes were fixed on the vast interior of the territory, desperately searching for signs of Luna and Shadow among the trees and rocks that made up the natural landscape. The caretakers tried to bring Max back several times, but he always returned to the same spot. After a few failed attempts, they decided to allow him to stay there during the day, provided he returned at night for his own safety. Max established a strict routine, walking to the fence every morning just after dawn and remaining there for hours, patiently observing. Occasionally, Luna or Shadow would appear in the distance, but they never came close enough to the fence. The biologists explained that this was natural. The pumas were adjusting to their new environment and establishing their territories. Weeks turned into months, and Max continued his daily vigil. His fur would become covered in dust as he lay in the same spot, waiting. During rainstorms, he would remain soaked but motionless. Staff had put up a small shelter to protect him from the scorching sun and storms, but Max rarely used it. His dedication was so absolute that visitors to the sanctuary began calling that spot Max's observation post, stopping to photograph the loyal golden retriever on his endless vigil.
4 months after their separation, something magical finally happened on a golden autumn afternoon. Max was in his usual position when Luna emerged from the distant trees, deliberately walking towards the fence. The golden retriever immediately stood up, his whole body trembling with excitement, his tail wagging furiously. Luna approached cautiously, her muscles rippling beneath her spotted coat, now fully developed into that of a magnificent adult predator. She stopped a few feet from the fence, observing Max with those intense golden eyes that seemed to recognize something deep and familiar. Max began to whimper softly, those high-pitched sounds he used to make when Luna was just a helpless cub. The large cougar tilted her head and then did something surprising. She approached the fence and rubbed her muzzle against the metal mesh, exactly where Max was on the other side. The golden retriever pressed his nose against hers through the gaps in the fence, and they both remained there, breathing in each other's scent, reconnecting across that physical barrier that separated them. It was a moment of pure emotion that left the caregivers who witnessed it with tears in their eyes. Minutes later, Shadow emerged from the shadows, more hesitant than his sister, but equally curious. He observed from a distance at first, then moved forward to join Luna and Max. The three remained together at that fence for almost an hour, the two pumas taking turns, touching noses with Max, rubbing their enormous bodies against the barrier, emitting low sounds of recognition. Max was radiant, his whole body expressing joy as he tried to lick his cubs through the fence, reaching as far as possible with his tongue.
After that first emotional reunion, Luna and Shadow began to visit Max regularly at the fence. It wasn't every day, and the times varied unpredictably, but they always returned. Sometimes they appeared at dawn, other times at dusk, but Max was always there waiting, as if he instinctively knew when his adopted cubs would come. The biologists were fascinated by this behavior, as adult pumas are normally solitary creatures that avoid frequent contact, even with others of their own species, much less with completely different species. During these visits, the dynamic between them revealed the depth of the bond they had formed. Luna remained the bolder one, often lying completely against the fence, her massive body relaxed and vulnerable in a way that wild pumas would never display near humans. Shadow maintained his more reserved nature, but he also approached, sometimes bringing strange gifts, twigs, interesting stones, even bird feathers that he carefully placed near where Max sat. It was as if they were reciprocating all those months of care and protection they had received. Max, for his part, seemed to rejuvenate during these visits. Despite his advanced age and increasingly gray fur, he regained the energy of a young dog whenever Luna and Shadow appeared. He would run along the fence when they moved, play tag across the barrier, and even try to teach them new tricks like in the old days. The sanctuary staff began documenting these encounters, creating an extraordinary visual record of a friendship that transcended all natural boundaries between species.
The story of Max, Luna, and Shadow has become a living legend within the sanctuary and beyond its borders. 3 years have passed since that first day when 2 helpless cubs found refuge in the warmth of a golden retriever with a giant heart. Max was now 10 years old. His movements were slower, and his walks to the fence required more effort each day. Even so, he never missed a single day of his vigil, patiently awaiting the chance to see his adopted cubs. Luna and Shadow, now fully grown adult pumas, continued to return, keeping alive that impossible bond that defied all the laws of nature. What made this story truly shocking for everyone was not only the unconditional love Max demonstrated, but the genuine reciprocity of the pumas. Animal behavior experts from all over the country came to study this extraordinary relationship, trying to understand how wild predators could maintain such an emotional connection with a domestic animal. Luna and Shadow's visits proved something profound about the capacity for connection between different species, that love and loyalty transcend basic instincts when a solid foundation of care and protection is established during life's most vulnerable moments. On a particularly significant morning, something happened that no one could have ever imagined possible. The 3 were having their usual meeting at the fence when sanctuary staff, after months of preparation and approval, opened a small, secure access gate. For the first time in years, Max was able to physically enter Luna and Shadow's territory under careful supervision. The 2 pumas showed no aggression. On the contrary, they surrounded Max gently, rubbing their immense bodies against him, licking his aged face. Max was in paradise, finally reunited with his children. That moment captured the essence of a universal truth. Family is not defined by blood or species, but by the unconditional love that unites hearts across any barrier. If you enjoyed the story, please like, subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories, and turn on notifications. Comment what you thought, and leave tips and suggestions in the comments below. We have much more content waiting for you. Keep watching our other videos.